Where did you live exactly?
Up here?
Yeah.
Exactly. We come up the road where you come up. We made the curve. We come straight up on our house. It'd be right there with a bunch of buses and so big house.
Were there two houses there?
Yeah, there was two houses. I'll show you. I don't have a picture of them here, but I got other pictures.
And they were owned by North Butte Mining?
They were North Butte Mining.
And when did you live in them? 19 when? Okay, so what do you see? What do you recognize in front of us here?
Well, there's the Granite Mountain gallows frame and the Badger gallows frame to the left. And the Granite Mountain gallows frame was considered one of the best makes of gallows frames. It's just like cars. There's different manufacturers, and that it was. I was always told it was a better grade of steel and better designed. And the shiv wheels is taken off. And if you look at the top of that bin that you see there now, and we look at this picture, you can tell our height if you look at that picture now.
Okay.
So you look at it at the gallows frame.
Let's see if I can get a picture of this. Okay, I'll get her on the ground here.
That mountain gallows frame, and see that ore bin in front? Can you see that structure in front?
Right.
Well, you're looking at the top of it over here now. You see?
And
so
then
that tells you how much it's filled in.
Okay, now what's on that picture? What do you see at the with the Granite Mountain?
Well, then there's some 6 idlers towers between the gallows frame and the engine room, and that's to hold the weight of that heavy rope cable. There's a little red shack right below us here.
That's where the spec was?
The Speculator was right there.
Okay.
And you see the Speculator and Granite Mountain acquired quite a lot of real estate. They were big, and the Granite Mountain was the new hoisting shaft to replace the Speculator shaft and the bell shaft here were in moving ground. There's no way. They tried reinforced concrete and everything else. There's no way they could hold it. That ground just virtually squeezed in. The repairs got so costly at the spec that they had to sink a new shaft at the Granite Mountain.
So they kept part of the spec going though, didn't they?
Well, they kept it going as long as they could, and they kept concrete in certain sections, but found it didn't pay. But when copper price was high, they tried hoisting from both shafts. When the price they just hold from the granite. But most of the men and materials went down to Granite Mountain. The spec too was more or less of a service shaft.
Well, did the men change over at the spec?
No, they had a big dry at the Granite Mountain here, but some did change at the spec, and a lot of the crafts did.
Well, why'd they always say they were still working at the spec?
Because most of them was hired at the Speculator. The office was at the spec, and most of them was hired at the spec, and a lot of old timers worked there before they had the Granite Mountain shaft. So it's just like you're a new building now, your Speculator, and he sold it to the North Butte Mining Company. Was organized to take over the Speculator and mine, and they, at the time they was organized, they had no thought of the Granite Mountain. The Speculator had big high-grade veins, copper, and they had big veins of copper, and it was richer than hell.
So what this red building is now, that was part of the spec?
No, that's something new they built here recently, but that's where the Speculator was, yes.
Okay, and then what, those tanks that are down there, those belong to what, that are behind the bush there?
Oh yeah, the Anaconda Company put that there for sulfuric acid stuff for the pit.
Okay, but right where that red building is approximately is where the spec was?
Yeah, part of where you mix nitrate with oil and all. Now we were right, to show you here, if you can see it right there, the gem is right down there. We're down straight from the Granite Mountain.
I'm from here, okay. Where best can you describe it?
In fact, the gem, we were in a straight line below the Badger, and from here would be the left north of the Granite Mountain shaft.
So out there in that ore?
Yeah, it could be.
Out there where that island of waste dump is?
Yeah, and it could be a little more north of that, because I'm trying to look orient myself from the Badger. You see that dump with that red stuff down there?
Uh-huh.
We're closer over there, the gem, and to that island. The gem is underneath there someplace.
So that pile that's there with the black stuff in the middle of it?
Yeah, and the dump is somewhere in that line there.
Would it be under the road there, maybe?
Could be.
So right in there. Right, and you felt that you could look straight down to the Badger along the north side of the Granite Mountain?
Yes.
When you were on it?
And when I was we climbed up on the Granite Mountain gallows frame, and we could look right down to the gem. I've been on top of that calcine, and I climbed all those idling towers.
Okay, where was the Jessie?
The Jessie was just to the right down in the hole. I got another picture. I'll show you that.
To the right of the from where we're looking at it.
It was more over south of it. Yeah, not very far, just down over a little grade.
Okay, now what was your connection with the gem mine?
The gem mine, and let's see, I was only about just turning. I was in my 20s or something, and I wanted to go leasing. I had that blood in me about. Well, leasing was a chance to make money by getting a mine, finding rich ore, and make yourself a lot of money. And so we picked the Jessie and the gem, and I got them from the North Butte on a lease. And they were mine as long as we performed so much work a year. We had to perform so many shifts a year, and of course we had to do all our workings had to be in good shape. I mean, the companies didn't permit you to have done dangerous deals. And then we paid them a royalty on our shipments. And for a while it was 25%, but later on they dropped it to a sliding scale. And the higher grade your ore, the more the royalty the company got.
So how long did you have the gem?
I had it for about 5-6 years.
How deep was it?
The gem originally was only 700 feet deep, and out here, come out here towards us, there was a drift out here a long way. I wanted to open that up, but it would cost so much money. See, Butte ground is very heavy. They eventually closed, especially on veins. And they had a winds down to the 900, but we never got out there. I wish we did. But we just, see, I kept off the market. We first got down the gem and we found an old gob. A gob is where the old timers filled the stope and the modern one do. And they often filled their stopes with something to keep it from caving. And then they filled it with low grade ore. And we assayed their filling. And the filling was just as hard as rock. You had to drill it. The ground had squeezed the filling so tight. In fact, I had a hard time believing it was filling. I thought it was the original rock. And we shipped 2 or 3 cars of that to the smelter. And we got some money from it. Then we went down to the 700, and long story, we got into this big vein of block of copper. And originally there was a big block of copper in the Jessie vein. It was about 500 feet one way and 200 another way, and the minimum width was 5 feet and the maximum was 11. And the North Butte had surrounded that block. We had a tunnel, we call them drifts on the 700, and you had another one on the 1200 to the spec. And they had some raises in between, so we had a block, and they took assays on the raises and the drifts every so often, so it was pretty good. We know this block was there, and could have, well, Dave actually, I never did, figured out the cubics in the block, so it looked like a damn good sure thing for us. It was, because the North Butte carried it as their ore reserves. So we got in there, and we was doing good, shipping carloads of copper glance, and we shipped them to the Anaconda smelter. We only had shipping 1 car a week, 50 ton a week. That's all we were people getting up with our little small plant. My partner had a hell of a time holding him down. He wanted, nigger rich, he wanted to buy this and buy that. And something told me, I don't know what it was, to hold back. And so I held back. And then I put in one of those crank telephones that you have years ago down the shaft. And we had that so, because, and I put one up because we had much troubles. They'd want the timber, and we didn't have a big timber yard like the companies. You'd call up and you say you want a 5 by 10 about 6 feet long. Well, the nearest I got was a 4 by 10, maybe just about that length. And that meant a lot of trying to communicate with when you could. So a phone would pay in, so I installed I got the phones from the North Butte here. We put them in and you just crank them, and talk. And so they called me this morning. I was the manager. And I hadn't gone down yet. The miners went down. They called me. They said, Al, you better come down quick. That last blast that we left yesterday has brought down a lot of candle boxes and pole lighting. That shouldn't be. That was a solid block. Well, to make a long story short, we got more checking around, and we found that all we had was 30 feet of the block. Another company, the Tuolumne, had come in and mined the whole center of the block out.
And you found trash and stuff in there?
Yeah, well, yeah. And then the chief engineer was Dave Piper from the company. And now we belong to the Anaconda company. They bought the North Butte out. So he used to come down and help me. And there was an old raise off to one side there, and it was miserable. It was partly squeezed together, but open it. And the timber had water had run down there one time and left this iron pyrites and quartz and just smeared all over the timbers. And geez, that would just tear right into your overalls as I climb in sandpaper. And every time I got a chance, I'd reach some lag and it'd be across, and I'd put a quarter stick of powder there and get out of there and blast the lag and get the muck out. We'd climb up a little way, and I finally got it. This one, Dave come where we could, by chinning ourselves and crawling, I don't know how, we got up through the goddamn rays and got up there, and we found it was in a drift. The drift didn't go very far, it was caved, that's natural. And then I started looking at the timber, and I says, Dave, this is Tuolumne work. It's how can you can tell? I said, by the timber. I've got them records at home. Each mine framed their timber differently. And I said, this is a Tuolumne quirt. I know this is a Tuolumne. So we made this Tuolumne. It come in there somewhere around 1912 and mined the block out. There's nothing you could do about it because in the meantime, just a year, well, just a few months, the North Butte had just sold out to the Anaconda Company. And the North Butte, of course, was no more. The Tuolumne Company was merged with the Tuolumne. It was no more. And I forget the vice president of the Anaconda Company. He told me, he says, it was Mr. Steele and somebody else. And they told me, he says, Al, we're really sorry. Because they said, we were going in for that other block on the 16, and it's a cinch if they mined this out. He said they mined there, but he said, I wished it was us instead of you, that we could afford it.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's tough.
But